Okay, feeling a little bit better today. Cold is leaving. Thanks for asking. Today we're gonna share another I guess it's not a sneak peek. We already released a podcast. We're gonna share a snippet of the podcast me and Accountant Mike did, Why Your Homestead Business Will Fail. We're sharing you a snippet of that podcast because today we have a huge job ahead of us. On this wall behind me, we're gonna be putting up a hydroponic grow wall. We'll have a video for you in a day or two about the system. But until then, enjoy this podcast.
So I tend to see a lot of businesses who start and they're severely undercapitalized, which really hamstrings them from the beginning.
And honestly, most of these side hustles, nobody's going to invent venture capital to start, 6 pigs on their farm.
No.
But this is good. How does someone get the funding they need for their homestead side business?
At this sort of scale, we're probably talking a pretty small capital investment. So this might be the case where maybe you just spend 6 months saving and you can build your own capital buffer. Or it's a small enough thing that you can go ask mom and dad or your friends for a loan or something like that.
Taking a loan from family is one thing, right? It feels like, hey, I'm in a down position and I need to borrow money from you.
Sure.
You put a little marketing spin on this. There's something called a CSA, which is Community Supported Agriculture. And the whole idea behind the CSA is, listen, I know how to raise pigs. I've already done it. Here's proof of concept. Last year I raised 2 pigs and try this bacon. Isn't it amazing? Next year, I'm going to raise 4 of them. And you now can give me a deposit for a quarter of a pig. And then halfway through the growing season, I'm going to take another 25%. So half up front for a deposit, then 25%. Then I'm going to bring it to the butcher and ask you for the final 25%. And even, believe it or not, people actually sign up for this because I sell it every year. I tell people my down payment is, for a pig, my down payment is, $500 for the pig. The second payment and the final payment is somewhere between $250 and $350, depending on the finishing weight and final cost of production, butcher fees, etc.
Okay.
I give them the most it's ever been is this, and the least it's ever been is that. And these are not my exact numbers. I'm just telling you off the top of my head. But that way, I get people to fund my farm enterprises without asking for a loan, which feels like, asking for a loan is like, hey, I need a favor, especially to friends and family. Asking for a deposit is a business transaction. Hey, give me a deposit, you'll get your pig held, and fall time, at butcher time, I'll need my final payment.
Yeah. And I mean, at this scale, something like that absolutely works. So don't stress too much about it. I guess the point I'd want to drive home for this sort of scale of business is before you can do any of this, you need to understand how much you're actually going to need in order to make this stuff happen.
That's an awesome bit of advice. And the way that they can do that is the very first year they do anything on the homestead, dear Lord, don't make it a business. If you want to raise 2 pigs, do it. And if you're if your mom wants to buy half of a pig, say, sure, Mom, I'll let you know what it costs when I'm done with it. But the first year, just raise it for yourself and take very good records of all the expenses.
Yep.
Over the years, we've done plenty of breakdowns, Accountant Mike. What are some of the expenses they might forget to take note of that they need to remember?
Well, there's some obvious stuff like feed. You're not going to forget that one. But we've been talking about pigs a lot. Let's switch to chickens. You need somewhere to keep your chickens. What's that going to cost you? You're going to have some chickens die, so are there going to be any expenses involved in that? You're going to need to... You might have a lot of chickens die. Depends, because of bear. But anyway.
There it is. I was waiting for it.
Yeah. When it comes to livestock, I mean, there's not a ton else, right? You're not really going to take out insurance on these chickens or anything like that, but... Pay attention not to how much you spent on feed dollars, but how much feed was it? So if the price of feed changes, you can figure that out for next year.
That's a good point. Keeping track of how much you go through, not just what you actually paid. So someone might say, oh, I raised 50 meat birds and it cost me, $500. Instead, say I raised 50 meat birds and I had to put, 40 pounds of feed into those birds. Whatever. Again, these are fake numbers.
Sure.
But I use this much feed, and a good Google spreadsheet can keep track of that.
Oh, yeah.
One of the big ones we talk about a lot, and I think this is where I get all this, all these people on YouTube are like, oh, dude, I make tons of money with chickens. You're such an idiot. I make money on eggs every year. People don't amortize the cost of that infrastructure. That chicken coop you bought for $1,000 is going to break down over, 10 years or 15 years. The water lines, the electricity you ran, the electricity to take care of the birds, whatever it is, you need to consider all those little bits, because that's where you go from, oh, you know what, I spent this much on feed. Well, you also spent a lot more money on other things.
Sure.
Keep track of all those things. And if the first year you do it, if you just do it for your own family and maybe your mom and dad or something, keep good, close track of those numbers. The beautiful part about that is then you can scale very easily.
Thanks for watching that episode, guys. That snippet, I should say. If you want to hear the whole podcast, you can download it on iTunes, on Stitcher, or on Google Play. Wherever you get podcasts, search Homesteady, subscribe, and you'll get the most recent episode all about homestead businesses. Okay, off to get to work.